All right, ladies and gentlemen, so today what we're going to do is go over what's happening in 2K, the hot button subject of lag switching, and hopefully you'll learn something about networking 101 while we do this. Let's get right into it.
I didn't choose. Yes. Don't get it confused, I'm working, but homie, I still murk it. Come on. We'll never lose.
Yes, sir! What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Eazy, aka Fresh from the Barbershop, BK the People's Champ, coming to you live with another video, man. Check it out, man. The hot button topic in the community is lag switching. I never do any of these type of videos. I just never do any of these type of videos just because of the fact that it does not make sense. A lot of times you don't want to put people on to something. I'm doing it in one take. I'm not cutting it up. I'm not doing any of that. And so if I miss something, it is what it is. But hey, let's just get right into it. Networking 101. This is a server rack, server networking, whatever we want to call it. Server management, inspiration, management, administration, whatever. This is a server rack. What this means is this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This could be as few as 8 computers, or it could be as many as 8,000 or 8 million or whatever. It just depends on how strong the server is and how much it's rated to do. So looking at this, let's just take this one blade right here. This one blade, typically, if this is we just act like it's an HP Pro line. If this one blade or a Dell blade, normally they come equipped with 2 Ethernet cards, and then you got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hard drives. Each one of those hard drives, who knows how much they could be holding? They could be holding 1 to 4 terabytes, 1 to 2 terabytes. Who knows? It just is going to depend on what the person wants. Why is this relevant? And how can there be so many computers on one server? Most of these servers have what you refer to as virtualization. What virtualization means is that this one computer can create hundreds of computers, potentially hundreds of computers, or run 100 instances of one computer. So basically what I'm saying is, let's say that each 2K server is an instance, right? When you walk into the neighborhood, if you walk into a fresh neighborhood, it will look the exact same every single time. It's an instance. So when you come in, everything is gonna be the same. The dude gonna be behind the Gatorade counter. You know, all the things are, you know, Pro-Am is one spot. The billboards are in one spot. I would actually probably even tell you if you could catch the instance at the very beginning, because it probably loops. If you catch the instance right at the beginning, you would probably see that the same thing is on the billboard every time when you come in. If you could catch the instance at the beginning. So like if you could load into a fresh part every time, what's on the billboard, because that's the only thing that actually changes, that should be there every single time. So instances, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's just like when you go into a World of Warcraft game, or when you go into a game of the Division, or anything in Grand Theft Auto, you're loading into an instance. And so that means they've programmed everything, they've set everything the way that they wanted it to be, and that's how it is. And then they put it online. So there could be potentially 1,000 instances in there. More likely, they're probably 100. I mean, and just me doing the math, let's say one of these blades has 2 Ethernet cards and you can team them, and so it'll give you like 2 gigabits worth of bandwidth. Let's just say this is what they're working with. If they rated it for 100 megabits per node that is running, then that's gonna be what, 20 instances? Quick math, 2 plus 2 is floor minus 1, that's free. Quick math. So the quick math on that would be that you have 20 instances at 10 megabits per second per connection, right? So that would give you up to 2 gigs. They probably wouldn't do that. They'd probably do 1,500, because you got to have some type of buffer, and you have to account for the flux. So let's just say 1,500. Anyway, that could be 20 instances in there, as many as 20 instances. Or they could have the connection down to like 5, and then you could have 40 instances. Or they could do it down to 1 if there's not a whole bunch, and you could have 2,000 instances. You could have 2,000 instances. So it just depends on how they're rating each node and what amount of bandwidth they're giving to each one of the boxes that reside in this actual box. Now, all of that is important because of this. The way that we're talking about that they're lag switching people, or you know, they're messing with your connection to the server. The way that they're doing it is they're literally flooding that connection. They figured out how much data you have to push to that, or how much you have to push into that pipe to clog the pipe up enough to where it works at a degraded service rather than working at maximum capacity. And like I said, if it's 10 megabits per second, that's not a whole lot. You could probably do that from your house or from your own connection. If it's 100, you may have a little bit more problem. I could do it. I got 1,000 up and 1,000 down, so I could do it. I could flood 5 servers at once and not even notice any degradation in my service at all. What I'm saying that to say is, I'm saying that to say that it would be relatively easy. I would bet that they probably don't have these servers, any one of these servers, at more than about 10, maybe 30 max, because I just don't see 2K servers having to do that. And I'll tell you why, because I was in a hotel, I could play 2K, I could go to the park and play 2K, but I couldn't play Fortnite, because Fortnite is a lot more taxing on your internet. And you all may have done that too. You could probably play 2K from some places where you couldn't play Fortnite. Let me know down in the comments if that's the case. The point of all of this is just to say that 2K can't really do anything about the lag switching, and what they're doing about it, they probably already are doing something about it, but it's just the way that it takes the steps to combat it. We just may not like it. The way that I would do it is, let's just go, okay, so we know what the networking is, we know what the nodes are. To recap, this is a blade. This blade normally runs about, it can run up to 100 instances of the 2K server, maybe even 200 if they got it, you know, depending on how they have it rated. And that's pretty much all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Depending on how they have it rated, it can run up to, I would say up to 200 instances of that same server, because 200 times 10 is 2,000. And if they have it rated for 100, then it would be 20 instances or something like that. So, you know, let's just take that. We know that 10 ain't hard to boot, and we're going on from there. Now, the reason that I'm saying that it will be incredibly difficult for them to do anything about it, because they can do something about it. Obviously, we know that they can do something about it, but what they're doing about it, or what they choose to do about it, we don't get to choose what they're doing there. Now, when you're looking at a server, when you have a server farm like this, or what have you, we're just gonna call it a server farm. When you have a server farm like this, or like this, it is literally impossible for one person to monitor all of these and just look at that. Typically, what a person is going to be looking at is something like this. Where you see green, it's a server up. Where you see gray, so you see green right here, it's a server up. Where you see gray, it's a server down. If I were monitoring it, that's all I would monitor manually. And I wouldn't even do this more than one time a day. So the only thing that they're probably looking for is a server being up or a server being down. And if a server is up and down, you right click on it, you reboot the server, or you call it back online, you spin it back up, you go into vSphere, do whatever you want to do. However they have it set up, however they have their instances set up, that's what they would do. They would reboot them, they would call them back online, they would wake them back up, they would change the IP. Oh yeah, I was gonna say each one of those it's either gonna be natted or it's gonna have a public IP. The fact that you can flood one server and not flood all of the servers on all of them, that would suggest to me that that each node has its own public IP. So if each node has its own public IP, it's only gonna allow that traffic to that server, and you can only flood that one. Otherwise, if it were natted, you would be flooding the public facing, the real public IP of the actual server, and you know, you lag out 20 servers or 200 or however many it were. So I'm gonna say that each node has a public IP. If you ever put a server in the Azure cloud or something like that, you'll know how that is. I've done that plenty of times, so I already know that. But back to what we're talking about here. So where you see green, it's online. Where you see, this is the only thing that I'm manually gonna monitor. I'm only gonna monitor it one time a day, or if somebody calls me and tells me that it's down. Now, you can put a network monitor on it, but and that will alarm me if the connection goes down. But that's probably the only thing that I want to get paged about, or if I would want to get a notification on in my email or what have you. That's all I want to know. People typically do not monitor for degradation of service or degraded services. We typically don't do that, and that's exactly the symptom that will be displayed when you have something like somebody lag switching or somebody flooding the connection. It's not going to show up as complete denial of service, because if it showed up as that, we can do something about it. It's only going to show up as degradation of service, and typically it's just going to come back up. So we just think we're dropping packets here and there. And somebody called me and said, well, it's not happening all the time, it's just on and off. And so we probably think it's the internet service provider or something like that. That's the symptom that is going to display. but it never completely goes down. It just slows down here and there. So we won't look at that as a problem because you're not monitoring for it. And even if you are monitoring for degraded services, you're not monitoring for degraded services every second of every day. So it could only catch it when it's happening. So even if they're monitoring for it 10 times an hour, it's only going to catch it every 6 minutes. And thus, it probably does catch it. But what it does about it, we probably don't know. Now, when somebody starts lagging up a park, or somebody starts lag switching in the park, or somebody starts doing something like that in the park, oh yeah, the reason that it happens to everybody is because when it clogs up the connection, nobody's packets are getting through cleanly, not even the host. So that's that. That's why, like in Gears of War and Call of Duty, you used to be able to, you could lag switch. Nobody else's packets would get through, but yours would, and you could kill everybody, and then you could switch it back on, and then everybody would be dead, because that's true peer-to-peer. All gaming is peer-to-peer. You're just not in control of the peer. Here, dedicated server, the peer is hosted somewhere, and nobody has control over the peer. So all gaming is peer-to-peer, but the dedicated server is the master peer in this case, and thus, when it's having degraded services, everybody in the park, even somebody running on the treadmill, is going to have issues, rather than how it used to be when it would pull you into an instance, or only in that park. You know, I mean, it would pull you into an instance. I think it used to be like last year, and then the whole park wasn't there, so it only lagged the people that are on the court. But when they're doing it like that, or maybe last year they were just pulling everybody's IP in the game and then they were doing it. I don't know how they were doing it, but this year it lags the whole park, and thus it's because they're choking the main of the connection. Everybody's packets are not getting through cleanly. Nobody's packets are getting through cleanly, and so it's going to slow everybody down. Now everybody slowed down. We've got degraded services. If we're monitoring for degraded services 10 times an hour, if one of these lag spikes happens during one of these monitors, because we're not going to monitor for it all the time because it's completely unnecessary. So if we do monitor for it all the time, it could cause issues with performance issues with the server or what have you itself. That's why we don't really do it, and plus it's not needed. But if they did do that, then you still don't get to control what happens when it monitors and sees degraded services. So when it sees the degraded services, in all likelihood, what it probably does is what happens on these 2K servers. The first thing that I would do is I would not allow any more incoming connections. Thus, when somebody starts lagging up the park, what's the first thing that happens? Damn, this park is dead. Nobody else is joining. That would be the first thing I would do, right? Number two, the second thing I would do, I would start disconnecting people that are using probably the most bandwidth, you know, systematically just kicking. And thus, that's why you see the parks get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then finally, what I would do is just shut it all the way down and reboot it and hope that whatever was trying to connect or what was causing the flood, I would hope that it would be gone when it came back. And that's when everybody gets booted from the park ultimately. So I'm pretty sure anybody that's ever been in one of the parks where people lag people out, you notice those three things. Damn, this park is dead. Why is nobody else joining? And then ultimately you just get lagged out of the entire park. Everybody's just gone. So that's what happens. We don't get to choose what happens when the monitor actually kicks in and it starts doing its job, because what ultimately happens is nobody else joins the park and it shuts everything down. Well, nobody joins, it starts kicking, and then it shuts the server down. The server shut down, now you lost your streak, and we go back to it. So even if they were monitoring for it 24 hours a day, it wouldn't matter. Now, I guess you could say, like, you can't stop, I'm saying all this to say that you can't stop somebody from punching you in the face, right? Somebody can walk up to you right now and punch you in the face. The only thing that you can do is be prepared for it. But how I prepare, it may not be. I know Taekwondo, I take Taekwondo. So if I'm walking around with this left hand blocked all day, like, I don't know where they're gonna come from, right? So if I'm walking around with this up all day and somebody punches me on this side of my face, I got my right hand up all day, they punch me on the left side, now I can block, or I can block once I see him getting ready to punch, but I don't know what to block. I can't block all the IPs, so you know, we're saying we can block the IPs. Okay, if it's at 10 megabits per second, there is such a minuscule amount of data coming from each of the IPs, you couldn't even tell which one of them is attacking you anyway. The only thing the server knows is I have made too many connections, so I need to start shutting those connections down, ultimately start disconnecting those connections, and then finally I will discharge the server. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. But the thing is, it's such a minuscule amount coming from each one. That's why it's not a denial of service, it's a distributed denial of service. which is a DDoS. DDoS means that you've got a ton of botnets that are just flooding it. When you have one person flooding it, the amateur booter, I guess, he probably wouldn't be able to do it, or he probably wouldn't be able to do it for long because it's going to disconnect them. If they're turning on 1 million botnets and attacking the server at once, then that would actually work, because it doesn't know which one of those botnets is actually malicious and which one is someone just playing the game. It just knows that it has way too many connections, and thus, now I don't know if anybody's doing that. I don't think anybody's doing that. They're probably just doing a playing out straight up flood. But even if they're doing that, they're not doing it for such a long period of time that it raises any alarms, and that's really the issue. It's not going. I as an IT guy, I've been doing IT. I've been an IT guy for 20 years. I would never sit here. The average person surfing the internet or what have you, if the internet slows down for 10 seconds here and there, that's not even a cause for concern, because the average person won't even notice it. You're gonna sit on the page that you're gonna sit on for a while, and then you're gonna go to the next. You probably just be like, dang, that was slow right there. But then you're gonna go to the next page. You're gonna sit there, unless you on like something that requires a live connection all the time, like XNXX or something like that. Then you might notice it, or you watching some YouTube videos or some browsers or something like that. You might notice it, but otherwise you wouldn't even notice it. And that's why the monitor doesn't kick in, because it happens for such a short period of time. It's 30 seconds at a time, and if it doesn't exceed probably more than 75% of a minute, it could even be the threshold. We don't know what the threshold is, and we don't know what threshold of the connection has to be choked in order for it to start its maintenance, its self-maintenance, or its self-repair sequence. So that's why they really can't do anything about it, because of the way that it's set up. You could put something on there that would, you could put denial of service or DDoS attack protection on the server, but if you did that, it probably wouldn't even kick in, because there's probably such a minuscule amount of data coming from each one that is not even going to pick it up. And this is a server that's supposed to be wide open. If it was like a SIP server or a phone server or something like that that I used to do, I know where packets should be coming from, so I just deny everybody else. I could do that. But when you're playing a video game where people are going to change their IP here and there, there's literally nothing that you could do. You have to wait to get punched before you can, and obviously they're doing something, because to my knowledge the 2K servers have not gone down this year. This is to my knowledge. Nobody has gone in and flooded the big server and knocked all of them offline, right? So obviously they have some type of protection against that on the big server that hosts all of these. But on the smaller ones, you wouldn't even really bother. Like, I mean, you could put a firewall in or something like that, but that firewall is like, how do you determine who gets through and who doesn't when I need to let all these people through? I need to allow all, I need to allow any, and then if I'm getting attacked, I can start denying. It will be nearly impossible to figure out who's doing it, especially if they're doing a distributed denial of service. So anyway, man, I'm not already talking too long about this. Y'all don't give a damn about it anyway. I'm just defending 2K in that, as a networking person, it would be nearly impossible for me to stop that, especially if they change it every single time, or they're changing their IP every time. And it's just such a minuscule amount of time that it happens, that it's just like, no monitor will really catch it unless they have a 24/7 monitor on the server. And hey, maybe they could beef up the servers, but it's gonna be more expensive. 2K is gonna be more expensive. We're gonna have to pay for more VC. We're gonna have to do all of that, and y'all don't want to do that. I don't want to pay for no VC right now anyway. They're making millions of dollars. They should put the network stuff in. Yes, they should do that. Yes, they probably could do that. But I'm telling you why it would be very difficult, if not impossible, in order to do that. You can take Taekwondo and be ready to defend yourself, but you cannot stop somebody trying you. Somebody try you in the street, like what can you do? You can't stop them from trying you. I can only stop them after they've begun to try me. And so look at it like that. That's how it is, man. Like, only thing I'm looking for is green over here. If I see green, you know, it's gonna go, I'll be good. If I don't see green, I know Mac Mini needs to be rebooted, or I need to call them about that. But you don't know. It's just like if a digger goes down at the internet place. The internet place doesn't know that digger's down until somebody calls them and says, hey, I have no service. And then they start looking, because that monitor probably hadn't kicked in yet that's on the digger. Well, if it goes all the way down, then yes, but if it gets to 75% of service and you're in the 25% that has no service, then it's not gonna catch that, because 75% of service is acceptable. Anyway, I gotta get up out of here, man. I hope that made sense to somebody. Like, you can't really stop it, because you've got 1 million of these servers sitting in this rack, and you multiply that exponentially, because each server in this rack is running an instance, you know, an indeterminable number of instances. It's using an indeterminable amount of bandwidth, and it probably doesn't take very much to shut them down. Anyway, I gotta get up out of here, man. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'm out of here till next time. It's your boy Eazy, aka Fresh from the Barbershop, BK the People's Champ. Holla! You damn right I'm a certified genius. This is what I do, man. I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. I understand why they can't really stop it. It's still no excuse for it. They should probably find a way, but I just understand by how networking normally works, it's really not a way to stop that. And I'm out. Peace.